Hi, good morning, folks. Thank you for being with us this morning. Appreciate it. We got 28 people on the Zoom already. As we all learn about youth protection and taking care of our young people as the many different kinds of youth service programs that we conduct around Hawaii. I'll give you a quick update on the horrendous tragedy that's unfolded this week on Maui. Our 9 Rotary clubs on Maui have all been directly impacted. We know of at least 10 people that have lost their homes entirely. And Rotary's already on the ground. The Maui Rotarians are there working. They're in the shelters. They're moving fuel around to get gas to people. We got a call yesterday from the Lieutenant Governor's office, and so there's a team right now at the state capitol helping sort and get things ready to fill containers to ship to Maui. So Rotary's going to be at the state capitol all day long today. We quickly set up a relief fund at our District 5000 Foundation, and you all received a letter that I sent out on Wednesday afternoon, and that has really taken off. We have the background and the QR code. That's really it's incredible. It's overwhelming the response we've gotten. So we've already collected with donations through our District 5000 Foundation. It's significantly over $100,000 in just 48 hours. So the outpouring of help from Rotarians now around the world that have come in, it's really heartfelt and sincerely appreciated. Our strategy is to not do the immediate needs of shelter and food is being addressed a number of ways. But Rotary wants to be there for the long term. And when other agencies are maybe finished their service, Rotary will still be on island and helping. So we're really looking to do the second wave of support for the people on Maui. And we have a committee organizing to be able to distribute those funds in appropriate ways. And we'll keep everybody informed, but please keep the Maui folks in your thoughts and prayers, and continue all of our good work in Rotary. I've been saying these are times when people of action take action, and that's what's happening in Hawaii Rotary this week in particular. But throughout the year, as we here today talk about working with young people. So thank you, Peter Evans, for helping lead us through the session this morning, and Naomi for hosting it. And we'll turn it back to you folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, this is very traumatic for all of us, and I think the number of Rotarians that have lost their homes is 15 that I know of, 9 from the Lahaina sunrise. So it's very hard to hear this information. But we are here to get our annual youth protection training, and Mark has to certify that we're doing our job with doing the training. So here to present this is Peter Evans, who is our youth protection officer for the district, and he is from the Rotary Club of Eco Rotary Club of Kaka'ako, right, Peter?
Yes,
so
yes.
All yours. Sure, you can share your screen.
Naomi, thank you. Mark, thank you for those words. First of all, I just want to welcome everybody. I know it's a Saturday morning here, and this is just one of the things that we have to do as part of volunteering as youth in youth services. So thank you for your commitment in ensuring that your clubs are compliant. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Can everyone see this? Okay. All right, so our agenda today, we'll just do a quick introduction of myself. We'll have a youth protection overview. We'll talk a little bit about compliance, speak about risk management, some best practices and key takeaways, and we're going to end it with questions. All right. Well, my name is Peter Evans. I'm a member of Eco Rotary of Kaka'ako, as Naomi mentioned. I've been your youth protection officer for our Rotary District 5000 for the last 5 years. 2016, I had a little break there, but 2020, 21, 22, and 23. I love doing what I do. I love learning every single time from each club, and I think it's very important. So it's really great work that we're doing here. I started working youth services when I started my Rotary journey with the Honolulu Rotary Club, and that was 2015 to 2017. I currently have 26 years of risk management experience in general liability and occupational safety and health. And I am the Deputy Director for Installation Safety, and I'm appointed as risk manager for the Marine Corps base over at beautiful K-Bay. I'd like to bring your attention to this video from President Jennifer Jones speaking about youth protection.
No volume, need to optimize.
Okay, no volume.
Yeah, if you go back to the original screen, there's two boxes to check to optimize and then play the video.
Peter, on the bottom left, there's a box to share computer audio.
Yep. All right. Even I fall victim to technology every so often. There you
Greetings,
go.
my fellow Rotary members and everyone who works with youth through Rotary's youth programs. Engaging young people with Rotary enriches our entire organization, including adult volunteers, and it provides young people opportunities to develop as leaders who promote goodwill, engage in service, and promote peace in their local communities and around the world. The incredible impact Rotary can have in these young people's lives is only possible when we make a commitment to fostering safe environments for them to do everything we do. As champions for youth, we must be knowledgeable about how to prevent, identify, respond to, and report abuse or suspected abuse that involves our youth. No organization, including Rotary, is immune to these types of issues or risks. Our policies and procedures are designed to create safe environments for our participants, as well as mitigate risk to your clubs and your districts. The Protecting Youth Program Participants online course was developed by experts in child protection, and it empowers clubs and district leaders to keep youth safe. And our youth protection homepage at rotary.org/youth protection has resources, best practices, and even an online reporting form for all youth protection concerns. Keeping young people safe is everyone's responsibility, no matter what your role in Rotary. I am personally committed to youth empowerment and safety as I've experienced firsthand the incredible value youth bring to our lives and to our entire organization. So please, join me in this commitment to youth protection and to fostering safe environments in your clubs and districts and to our young people and their families, because you know what? They're counting on you. And remember, youth protection is never the focus of our involvement with youth, but it's the foundation upon which engaging all youth activities are built. So thank you very much for your time and dedication to Rotary's youth programs. It's greatly appreciated.
Do I still have everyone there?
We're here, Peter.
Okay, thank you. For some reason, I have the full screen here. I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. Sorry about that, folks. Let me get back on. All right, folks, I'm gonna get back on here. Sorry, I don't have everyone's faces on there. But we'll continue. So chat is open. If anyone has anything that they want to put on the chat or call out, this is an interactive session. So I encourage engagement. But how many folks are new to youth protection or youth services? Let's see if I can get some. Okay, a few of you folks. So if we can just call out here, why is youth protection important? Anyone?
Well, they're the futures, aren't they? And if we don't treat them with respect and dignity of what they deserve, things are pretty sad, aren't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else? I see Letitia says, keep our kids safe. Anyone else?
Well, we are modeling our youth, and what we teach, they learn what we teach them. So it's our responsibility to teach them to be responsible.
Absolutely. Brian Dunkel protects the kids, protects the clubs. Absolutely. So, I mean, all the answers are correct, but as you can see, our answers are similar. They're all different. They all differ from, based on experiences and our values. The main thing here is that we all have that sense of responsibility for keeping our youth safe. That's the important thing. Here's a few pictures I've collected while I was youth services chair over at the Honolulu Rotary. As you see, youth services bring many opportunities to help shape the youth within our communities. We as Rotarians were busy, very busy mentoring, guiding, and providing to our communities. There's definitely no shortage of work. As you can see, just some of these pictures, we're actively engaged, similar to some of the things that you folks are doing. So where do we start? Well, we start here with the Rotary Youth Protection Guide. And as President Jones mentioned earlier, Youth Protection Guide can be found at rotary.org. But this will serve as our resource. We want to utilize this guide as this Youth Protection Guide as guidance in ensuring that our club is compliant with the standards. The guide should be used for initial or refresher training, as well as a resource in dealing with youth protection. And the guide can be found also at the District 5000 website under the Youth Services page. I'll put there's that link to the where you can find the Youth Protection Guide. It's a long link, don't write it down. I'll make sure that you folks all get a copy of the link. All right, the next is our policy book. You can find all the information regarding club operations in this manual. It's been updated and adopted May 2022. So this is the current edition. Again, I'll send you folks the link, but we want to utilize the Rotary International District 5000 Policy Manual as your governing document to local policy. This, again, should be used for initial and refresher training. And we can find this online at the District 5000 website. It contains everything you need to ensure compliance with your club. You also
point of information, you've got a gray box covering part of your slide from our perspective. You may not be able to see it. It may actually be in the back, but one of your Zoom meetings is covering part of your slide.
is that better?
Brilliant.
I tried to put the chat box up there. I apologize. There's something going on with my Zoom meeting right now. I have a full screen and I don't see anyone right now. Well, we'll adapt. But with this District 5000 policy manual, you'll also be able to find many of our youth compliance forms, such as the club compliance statements, as well as volunteer affidavits. Now, I'll go ahead and send you those affidavits and the club compliance statements. I'll make sure that you folks all have that so you don't have to print them off of the policy manual. All right, now getting into why we do youth protection, right? Directly from our Rotary International comes our statement of conduct for working with youth. I'm going to read this over to you folks so that we all know. Rotary International strives to create and maintain a safe environment for all youth who participate in Rotary activities. To the best of their ability, Rotarians, Rotarian spouses, and partners, and other volunteers must safeguard the children and young people with whom they come into contact and protect them from physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. This is our statement of conduct. There's some non-negotiables on there. It states that we must safeguard. So we must not turn our backs to any suspicion of harm to children or youth that we work with. We have to safeguard them. Abuse and harassment of young people can go unaddressed when adults fail to recognize them. Now, we're not experts. We may not all be experts at human behavior, but we all have our experiences. We had, most of us are our fathers, mothers, and we have experience in protecting our children. We know what to do. Utilize that experience. But youth protection depends on awareness and the possibility of abuse and harassment and vigilance in guarding against it. But how can you recognize abuse and harassment? Well, be aware of the signs of abuse and harassment, physical or even mental signs. You need to be observant. When a youth is known to be cheery and suddenly becomes detached, it might be a sign of a problem. This can really come into play when we do programs such as Interact, where we're constantly working with children. We know their behaviors. So when something seems wrong, it possibly could be wrong. But don't overanalyze. Yes?
Sorry, that
No.
black box moved to the bottom of the page.
I'm going to try to start all over here. I apologize. I'm going to stop sharing.
Still there.
Still there, huh?
Yeah, Peter, it might work better if when you share screen, rather than share screen, just share the application, pick the particular PowerPoint program, and then it might work better for you.
I've never had problems like this before.
Clearly, you don't do this enough, Peter. You've never had this problem before.
I've never had this problem before. All right, let's see if this works. Are we good here? Let's see.
Hey, that's better. No black boxes.
There we go. I did something right there. I feel better. I have everyone's faces there, I see. All right, thank you for your patience, everyone. All right, but again, we don't want to overanalyze. We want to be aware. Sometimes changes of behavior may just be due to just being homesick, cultural adjustments, etc. Any questions? Now you can find some of this information on the Youth Protection Guide as well. A lot of great information on how to recognize any disparity or recognize any abuse or trauma within kids, within the youth. All right, our hearts are with Keiki, but our minds focus on compliance. So ensuring that we are compliant. Why do we want to be compliant? Why do we want to be compliant with our policies? Well, I mean, it's our duty, it's our commitment, and enhances our trust with the community. It protects our clubs and Rotarians from legal ramifications. It provides us with standards and controls that keep us professional and keep us a legitimate organization. Our club presidents, club chairs, other club officers all have the overall responsibility for operating, coordinating club youth activities, including integrating our youth protection policies. As mentioned earlier in the video, it's everyone's responsibility. So the more training that we have and the more awareness that we have on this subject, the better. But club executives should know all Rotary and district youth protection policies. Club executives should implement required training such as this: screening, program logistics, and risk management procedures. Regular engagement with youth program participant to get feedback on programs. That's really important. Some mechanism of measurement to see whether or not your program is working, make adjustments to ensure that issues or problems or even correction of errors can be addressed. Report all allegations of abuse, harassment, and other crises to the YPO, the Youth Protection Officer. That's me, who in turn will disseminate that information to proper district level leaders. Utilize the 5 W's: the who, what, when, where, and ensure that one person gathers the facts and reports it right away. When crisis occurs, when issues occur, everyone wants to contribute. And so the worst thing that can happen is wrong information or opinions filtering its way down the pipe and wrong information getting to leaders. So one person collecting the information and reporting that right away will ensure accurate reporting. All right, we spoke when we could find this, but on your compliance statement is a pledge by each club. So every club is to review and sign this form attesting to your club's youth protection, program compliance. This form can be found in the District 5000 website or the link below. Again, I'll send you folks the link. All clubs, every single club has to send their completed forms to that email address right there, ypo@rotarydistrict5000.org. Now, what is this form? A lot of you folks are returnees and understand and know this form. It is an attestment. So what we want to make sure is that each club understands that they will conduct Rotary youth programs in accordance with our policies, our District 5000 and Rotary International policies. It is an attestment to say that every club representative will attend a district youth training session and ensure that all club members participating in youth service are aware of the applicable RI and District 5000 youth protection policies and procedures. It's also an attestment to say that all volunteers have been involved, all volunteers involved with Rotary Youth has completed the program volunteer affidavit and been through a vetting process, and that those affidavits have been sent to the Youth Services Committee. They talk about the form actually talks about following and reporting guidelines for abuse and harassment and properly reporting. So it is a testament to your club. This needs to be done and it's a requirement. I have to say though, every year we chase this. Not every, I mean, we have a lot of clubs that are engaged that send this right away, but it's not without some sort of chasing. So if we can get this out of the way and we can concentrate on the important things.
Peter, can I have
Hi,
a
Eric.
question? Yeah, so when you say that all members dealing with youth have to be vetted, what do you mean by vetted? How extensive do you mean?
We'll go through that in a little bit, but vetting at least go through an interview process and a background check.
Okay, and you're going to talk about that later.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, you're good, Eric. Thank you. All right, so the next form is the volunteer affidavit form. This goes along with the compliance form, but we want to use this, utilize this volunteer affidavit for vetting through our volunteers, going through a screening process for our volunteers. We want to make sure that we understand how long we've known these individuals, in what capacity. We want to make sure that we think and we know that the people that are volunteering are well qualified to work with youth. We want to understand whether or not there's any reservations about recommending this person to serve in any committee. And we also want to verify. We want to verify through a few things, dates of employment. We want to verify through reference checks. This affidavit must be completed and sent over to myself as well. Records will be retained by myself for a period of 3 years after the creation. Any questions on this? All right. Vet your volunteers, right? So as you can find again guidance on this in our youth protection guide, but some key points to know is that volunteer selection and screening, we must utilize a youth volunteer program application form found in the Youth Services website. It includes an interview, some reference checks, the criminal background checks, and in the case of youth exchange, home visits. Volunteer training. Training is very important, but training should be specific to the program role. Let's say that we're doing a beach cleanup and we have some Rotary volunteers that are leading the way. We want to be specific to that program role. We want to be specific to the event that we're hosting. We also want to include abuse, harassment, and crisis prevention information.
Peter, I think Wolf has a question. Wolf?
Yeah, sorry, I had my mic off. I'm just wondering about the reference checks. I know about, we all do the criminal background checks and we pay for that and get them, but reference checks, I'm not quite sure how you go about it. I mean, obviously you do it when you apply for work jobs and things like that, but reference checks, I'm not quite sure how you go about getting those ones. We've got a few people obviously checked and licensed to go and work with young people, but reference checks, that's a new one to me, to be honest.
Thanks, Wolf. It is, I don't want to say it's a new thing for us as well. This is something that we have just given the autonomy for the clubs to do. We want the clubs to understand who they're working with, who's working and volunteering as well. Reference checks can be whether or not it's employment checks or family members or professional, but reference checks usually give a good indicator of the person that you have with you. If a club has a person that's volunteering that has always been a volunteer, I don't want to say that reference checks aren't required. We just want to make sure that every club understands who they're having on their staff for in volunteering. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, obviously it's very important. I'm just trying to, but thinking about the mechanics. If you have somebody new, who do you talk to and how do you talk to find out this person is okay or not? We'll obviously make all these judgments before we even consider somebody, for instance, as a new member. We want to make sure that person is in line with us, our thinking and everything else. So it's just, we haven't come across anything like that I've seen. I've been a member for about 10 years. and all the people we had. So, you know, there never been an issue. I just wanted, looking down the future, so there's something to watch out for. Obviously, we're always cognizant of the fact that there could be the wrong person in there, and so we certainly are watching for that.
Wolf, I appreciate that. In the past, clubs have definitely done an interview process and a criminal background check. Reference checks, although not required, I can't find anything that says it's required. It does state it on the affidavit form, which the affidavit form is required. We leave it up to the clubs to vet their people.
Right.
But for me, at the very least, we have to make sure that the volunteers understand the program, understand youth protection, has gone through at least an interview process, and definitely gone through the background checks. So we look at feasibility, we look at what's right. It may not be feasible, especially in a short period of time, to do a reference check. It may not even be feasible to do a criminal background check for, let's say, a event that we're having next week. We may not get that back right away. We want to do things that we want to have contingencies in place. So if we don't have a background check, we'll never allow an unbackground checked individual be alone with youth. We'll have we'll put some systems of checks and balances in place to ensure that people are safe. And so absolutely, I don't want to say that we're being really fluid here, but we want to make sure that we're feasible in what we in our clubs and what we do.
And there are youth programs that are probably more how should I say, more subject to possibly abuse than others. And those ones you really want to be aware of and double check and triple check that you don't bring anyone in that has a shady background.
Absolutely, Wolf. And especially when we're doing host families youth exchange, where we have youth staying in residence for an extended period of time, we really want to be vigilant, and we really want to put good systems in place. When we have camps, when we have like RILA, we want to make sure that we are going through extensive checks and when before the event happens. Hopefully
Kara,
that answers your question, Wolf.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
I'm with you all the way.
Kara,
Oh, hi. Can you hear me? Because I'm having technical problems with my camera, but can you hear me okay?
oh, Kara, I can
Yeah.
hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So, so you kind of answered my question towards the end. The volunteer affidavit form background check is more extensive for youth exchange students and camps that have overnight stay for sure. But if we have an upcoming event that has our teens there as volunteers, I'm just thinking of an event on October 14th. We have games for a purpose, and we are inviting the teens to come up and help. Now, I do have some things in place, like for instance, they did do the buddy system to go to the bathrooms because these kids are 16, 17, 18, but they have to check in with me and check out type of thing. How does that work? I mean, they're coming to an event. There's going to be tons of adults there playing games for a fundraiser. How do we navigate that other than the back being safe? That, I mean, if they do leave, they go into buddy system, they come back, I check in with them. Am I doing enough for something like that when it comes to the youth participating in an event?
Kara, great question, and I'm glad you brought that up. Sounds like it's going to be a very great event. We're going to talk a little bit about risk management in a few slides down, but that all comes into play. We'll take a look at a lot of the volunteers are youth volunteers. Now, when we talk about voluntary screening, we're talking about the volunteers that are within our clubs, and also the volunteers that volunteer with us often enough where we can go ahead and do a background check on them. But when you have youth volunteers or time-sensitive events, such as something that's coming up in October, you can plan a little bit more. But when you have youth volunteers, you have to have a game plan. You have to understand who, and maybe have a roster of who is volunteering, specifically where they're going to be, and then do exactly what you said, putting plans in place, maybe having, I don't want to use the word dual custody, but maybe having 2 youth program volunteers per youth. Deciding that ratio is not, there's no requirement or any standard that says you have to have 4 to 1, 4 students to one background checked volunteer. But you have to be real smart about it and really take a look at, what risks are inherent. What have we done enough within our process to ensure that the student volunteers have enough training on what to do. So those are some of the types of things that we would employ in before participating in the event. Does that answer that?
Peter? It's
Hey,
Kimo
Kimo.
from North Hawaii. What triggers the requirement for a background check? I know last year we had an exchange student, and her counselor and those that worked with her directly, including myself, we all did the background checks. But one of the things that our clubs and many clubs do is they do the interview for scholarship. And I don't know where the line is drawn on when you need to have the volunteer affidavit and when you need to do the background check and reference checks. I mean, what constitutes a requirement for that?
Really, what constitutes a requirement is if you have long-term volunteers, so volunteers that are working the program. So if you have, let's say, a volunteer that's working in as a scholarship interviewer, a good best practice would be having a youth volunteer that has a background check be part of that panel, not having that that unvetted volunteer, or I don't want to say unvetted volunteer, but the unbackground checked volunteer alone with the youth. So that would be a good best practice. But really, let's say that I am in the Interact Club. I'm the chair for the Interact Club, and I have a committee that works constantly every day for an entire school year with youth. They would be background checked. Now, if I have an event happening in a couple weeks from now, I might not get the background check in time. And then you also have to understand that these background checks actually cost money. So we want to make sure that, well, if this is a one-time volunteer, that we are putting plans in place that will protect us. Will protect, first of all, protect the child or the youth, and then also protect ourselves and the Rotary Club brand.
How long is that background check good for? I know I had mine last year. Am I good for a couple of years, or what extent does that protect me or protect kids?
People, good. You're good for 2 years.
Okay, great. Thank
Except for youth exchange, if you're doing a hosting, you need to do it every year for youth exchange.
Okay.
Peter, there's a question in the chat box. 3 Deep Leadership, right? It's from Secretarial Financial. So if Secretarial could please let us know your question.
Aloha, good morning. My name is Rachel Secretario from the Rotary Club of Hanalei. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for everybody serving youth. I was saying 3 Deep Leadership in the Boy Scouts with the Aloha Council. It's always been, and with the Boy Scouts and nationally, we always have 3 Deep Leadership, and also with the Episcopal youth, it's also three deep, three deep leadership, meaning that you have three people with you at all times. So I was just piggybacking to the buddy system that somebody was talking about. So I was thinking that could also be a standard.
Rachel, good point. It could be a standard, absolutely. So what's good for each club is good for each club. You have to take a look at, specifics to your organization. That's the great thing about youth protection. Even though we have our standards and our requirements in place, every club is different. Honolulu may do something different than Honolulu, or Pearl Harbor may do something different from somewhere else, from Wahiawa. We all have to take a look at our specific regions or specific areas and understand what's right and do what's right. But three deep leadership, if that works for you in Honolulu, absolutely, that works for you. And that sounds like a good best practice, I think.
So Peter, I have a question about that. So what immediately pops to mind is anytime we have a Rotarian who's transporting kids to an event, whether a camp, for instance, you're not going to have three Rotarians in the car with the kids. So clearly those people have got to have a criminal background check.
Absolutely. 100%. And I would say that would be a requirement. Transporting children in vehicles, in your personal vehicles, has to be if there is no other method of transportation, the best transportation is having their parent or guardian transport them to the specific location. That is a last option, is to transport children in not public, but private vehicles. But Eric, you said it right. You do need to ensure that person driving has a criminal background check. I would say that person will definitely need to have gone through an interview, possibly go through reference checks. And then you may have to go a little bit deeper than that. You have to take a look at whether or not the person's automobile has gone through safety check, insurance, all those things. So it goes a little bit deeper than just allowing someone to drive youth somewhere. It really is. There's a lot of risk mitigation to be had. All right. Any more questions? Anyone?
Yeah, I've got one. So
Hey, Chris.
I'm in the Conemaugh group, and once a year we do Kiki Vision. This seems like an awful lot of stuff to go through for somebody to do Kiki Vision with a number of other Rotarians that are all basically working with kids for one day or 2 days. What gives? I mean, this seems like an awful lot.
It is. There's a lot, and Chris, I absolutely understand. We've got our specific roles that we have, or we want to do outreach. At the very minimum, Chris, I know we do have Kiki Vision. I'm assuming has volunteers, one-day volunteers out there, but we want to make sure that we put plans in place to ensure that we at least have some volunteers out there that have had criminal background checks, and they're paired up with others. Or like, let's say they don't have a background check, but we vetted through them and we know that they are one-day volunteers, and they've gone through some sort of interview or some sort of talk and training. We want to pair them up with someone else so that they're not ever alone with youth. So I think, if we're in a public area, and everyone's volunteering, and there's representatives from your Rotary Club that has had criminal background checks that have been vetted, I think that's fine.
Peter, it seems to me that we've just identified basically the range of risk. You've got all the way from an individual who's by himself with children in his own car, that seems to be the height of risk, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is a one-day volunteer together with many other Rotarians, some of whom have had background checks already and have been informed of youth safety training. That we don't have to have everybody have background checks necessarily in the event that we're all gathered together and helping youth through a vision screening test. Am I right?
No, absolutely, Eric. But what I'm saying is that if we do have, youth services is probably the group that's spearheading this event, correct? Okay, so with the youth services chair and all their volunteers that have put in the time and are in there for the long term should all have background checks. The one-time volunteer may not need a background check, but that one-time volunteer should be paired up with somebody. And if it's in a public venue, then that's fine. And you hit it good, Eric, when you said you have to take a look at inherent risk and the height of risk and putting the plans in place to reduce that risk. That's really what it comes down to. But yeah, I don't see, if you're in a public venue, such as an open field or an open area with people. Now, let's say a child needs to use the restroom and the restroom is around the corner somewhere. We'll have a background checked individual walking with that youth to the bathroom, or we'll have two people walking that child to the restroom, so just putting plans in place will help reduce some of that risk. Mary?
One comment I'd make with our KK Vision program is I don't think the volunteers are ever one-to-one with a student. There's usually a group of volunteers working together with a group of students who have their teacher present. So I'm wondering about the need for background checks for volunteers in that situation.
Well, Mary, what I'm saying is the youth program, the youth committee members should all have a background check anyway. So anyone, Rotary International states that anyone working with youth has to have a background check. In this case, if there's one-time volunteers, they don't necessarily need to have a background check. If you're constantly working with children throughout the Rotary year,
This is painful, Sheila.
Peter, the
The waste of time.
No, okay, usually KK Vision is at the school. So if everybody is going to school together, you're in the classroom with the teacher, Peter, we don't need background checks for people doing an activity at the school, correct?
Okay, correct. And I apologize. I'm not familiar with KK Vision. I'm just talking just in general, in general means here. Whenever you do have an event, you should take a look at what the requirements are, and then we just utilize best practices. In this case, KK Vision being in the school setting, absolutely. You may not need to have everyone background check. You're in the school setting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a question from Ed Hara. If he's completed a youth protection certification with the Boy Scouts, does this count to youth protection? And also there was another question about if they did a background check with ECRIM or another company, does that count as a background check?
Great question. This question actually comes up every year. Unfortunately, even if we do have background checks for work or other organizations, it does not apply to our Rotary Clubs district policy. So we need to ensure that we're going through IntelliCorp for our background checks. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's move on. All right, and we talked a little bit about this, but again, vetting volunteers, but Rotary Youth Exchange has its own specific requirements when it comes to vetting volunteers and host families. Rotary Exchange, when it comes to Rotary Exchange, we have to know that there are different and more specific requirements. We do have short-term and long-term exchanges. Short-term exchanges could be several days to 3 months. Long-term could be a full academic year. But if you know your club is participating in a youth exchange, just know and ensure that you are following proper protocols and compliant with the governing rules. I believe Tom Gross is the POC for youth exchange. He's got a lot of great information, but for volunteers, volunteer application is at that link right there. We also require you to do a criminal background check, and then host families all over 17 years old in the household has to do a volunteer application at that same website. Conduct a criminal background check annually. This is the only time where you have to do it annually. Naomi mentioned that earlier. And then host family and youth protection awareness training. We also have to employ a home inspection and photo of internal and external areas within the house. So a little bit more to do when you are dealing with or conducting a youth exchange. Background checks. So background checks are done by IntelliCorp, but every one of our volunteers should have a background check done. But if not, we want to make sure that we're putting proper plans in place. And we talked about the 3 leadership, having 2 people walking, but it's conducted by IntelliCorp. It's a reputable organization committed to conducting thorough background checks while keeping your information safe. How do we obtain a background check? Well, email Natasha Claren at that email address. You have to include your name, your email address, your home zip code, city and county. Wait for an invitation from myself. It'll come from YPO@RotaryDistrict5000.org, and then use the link to go into IntelliCorp's website. In that link, it's going to ask you some specific questions about you. Follow the instructions for submitting your information and pay online. So fee for this is between $14.96 to $20.90. Question comes up every year: who pays for this? It's up to the club. So each club has either funds to do this or it comes out of your pocket. So you would have to go back to your specific club for guidance on that. But the background check is good for 2 years. Background checks are needed for any volunteer working with youth. I say that very loosely. Any volunteer awaiting results of a background check, or a one-time volunteer or volunteer minor, should be accompanied at all times during the event by a vetted volunteer. So that's pretty simple. All right. We've got some risk management right now. We talked a little bit about that earlier through our discussion, but always plan. Use historical data. When you have an event outside, understand the terrain, understand where the bathroom facilities are, plan for student to adult ratios, weather conditions, etc. The more we plan, the better that we have in risk reduction. So the purpose of the risk management plan is to encourage our youth services to consider how they'll provide for the safety of our youth in their care and how they will mitigate that risk. So by recognizing unique challenges that are faced by minors, I've put together some points to consider when developing a risk management plan specific to safety of the youth involved in your club's program. And you as youth services chairs conducting or putting together a risk management plan have to really understand your own areas and understand the inherent risk in your areas. So consider what plans are involved and put plans in place to eliminate that risk, or at least reduce it to an acceptable level. One thing I always put out there is, a question that we always have to ask ourselves is, does the risk outweigh the benefit? So some questions to consider for in-person events. What's layout of the location and place where the program is being held? Is there anything in that space that could sorry. That could pose danger to a minor. How will the program ensure that the minor is not left alone with any adult? We talked about that a little bit. What are supervisory ratios? Now, there's no requirement on that, but that is something that's specific to you. So if you have enough volunteers, let's say you folks are doing a beach cleanup, what is proper? How many students need to be, or youth need to be with one adult? If programs in a public place, what measures will you take to supervise minor participants? How long or how will the program handle volunteer or staff who are not authorized adults, but are participating in the program on a temporary basis, such as beach cleanups? Usually when you see beach cleanups, we've got other organizations there. How do we handle, or what do we need to know when you have those other organizations commingling with ours? How will minors be dropped off and picked up? Is there a list of people authorized to pick up the minor? Will there be a check-in and check-out process? Many times we see folks going out and saying, picking up a minor and saying, mom's held up right now doing something. I'm the uncle, I'm picking up your child, I'm picking up so-and-so. So have we put plans in place to ensure that we're releasing youth to the proper individuals? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves when conducting these events. So risk management, very important. Like I said earlier, reducing that risk to an acceptable level. And do we want to accept that risk? That's a question that we all have to ask ourselves. The more people that know, more leadership that can discuss some of the risk management for the events, the better.
Peter, there's a question in the chat regarding RILA. This comes from Jeremiah. It's about RILA food preparation and risk related to that. They'd like to promote local and sustainable food sources. Are there any limitations for bringing meals to a RILA camp program? Does all food need to be prepared in a certified kitchen, or can meals be brought in that are prepared in a vetted volunteer's home?
Oh, Jeremiah, I want to make sure. Thanks, Ted. I appreciate that. Jeremiah, that's an excellent question. I can only say that RILA food preparation has to be in accordance to state, local policy. Following that, you will not have an issue. I just have to get into specifics to see where Rotary International stands on food preparation on things like this, events like this, but I don't have a black and white answer for you. The only thing I can say is to follow the guidance and follow the rules that the city and the state provide, but I can definitely get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. The follow-up question at that was just we wanted to see if that also local farm produce and poultry meats could be brought, that could be prepared in a certified kitchen as well. So, but thank you for
Absolutely. So certified kitchen on site, usually there's some cleanliness that has cleanliness requirements, temperature requirements that and some food compliance in place. But let me double check, and I'll get back with you, Jeremiah, on that, and make sure that you folks have the right guidance on that.
Peter?
Hi, Wolf.
Peter, has Rotary ever put together some checklists or questionnaires or something that the clubs can use as a sort of a guideline as to what to remember to ask and do before they actually plan or do an event?
Absolutely. So there's some guidance on the Rotary International website, the rotary.org website, under youth protection. there's some guidance on there and some templates that you folks can use.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great questions, everyone. Thank you. All right, crisis management plan. Now, similar to what we spoke about in previous youth protection training, we spoke about emergency action plans. A crisis management plan is actually the right verbiage to use. And crisis management plan is a carefully developed plan with a set of protocols designed to help individuals deal effectively with perceived emergency situations when they arise. So what is an emergency, right? Everyone knows what an emergency is, but emergency is an unplanned event. You know, it poses immediate danger. It's risky situations that may develop into a dangerous situation. What we need to do and utilize a crisis management plan for is to help us prepare to respond. Real and perceived emergencies can turn into a crisis at any time. So in conjunction with our Rotary International Code of Policies, which was dated January 22, that is the article number, and Rotary Youth Protection Guide, Rotary districts and clubs are to establish a crisis management plan, or a CMP. Now, Naomi and I have kind of discussed this in short, and we need to develop a crisis management plan in the district level. Clubs also should develop a crisis management plan. If districts or clubs participate in or sponsor any projects or activities in which adults engage with minors, regardless of whether the activity is or is not a Rotary activity, has to have a CMP. For Rotary International certification, Rotary districts participating in Rotary Youth Exchange Program must adopt a CMP. So our district often engages with minors in programs such as RILA, Interact, and other things, community programs such as the Vision program. But a CMP applies to all such activities. A crisis management plan with a set of procedures is the best way to help your club minimize the impact that a crisis may have on life safety and security. So how do we start? Utilize the guidance titled Developing a Crisis Management Plan on Rotary.org website. That's the link. I'll send that link over to you folks in one sheet. That way you folks have these links readily available. But really, how do you start? You designate a team that will get together and build this crisis management plan based off of templates in the Rotary.org website. But you want to determine what risks exist in your specific area. You might want to consult with local experts, such as law enforcement, people in your area. Develop a plan and protocol that address each type of crisis at varying levels of severity. Develop a communication plan and ensure that everyone is informed, prepared, and trained on an ongoing basis. A crisis management plan is just a book if it just sits there. It needs to be fluid and it needs to be updated often, and everyone needs to know where it is and what's in it. Any questions?
I just have a comment. This is something
Sure.
that helped us at RILA. We're fortunate to have the chief of fire department, fire chief, involved in RILA. And the other thing at KMC is that they have a full manned, 24-hour manned fire station there. So it's just something that eases the burn, but at least if we get the fire chief involved, maybe he can help us with the crisis management plan for our clubs.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would encourage that. They are the local experts, and the local experts in the areas that you folks reside. So if you have a resource like the fire chief, absolutely. Thanks, Jen. Technology. So technology, we've had kind of a big shift since the pandemic. I promised myself I wasn't going to bring that up, the pandemic up, but it has shifted us to having meetings such as this online. So Zoom meetings, we also need to make sure that we conduct or we provide online safety to youth that participate in these Zoom meetings as well. So Zoom meetings or similar platforms are common, but we want to be aware of storing information or pictures or youth, especially on a personal computer. Now, for instance, you all see my face right now, but what you don't see is the fact that I'm holding a phone and I might be videotaping you or taking pictures or screenshotting. We don't know why anyone or what anyone would do with that information, such as pictures, videos, or whatnot. But we want to make sure that prior to putting out a Zoom meeting, that we talk about some housekeeping notes, such as, you know, the host saying, I'm going to record, but we don't want anyone taking any pictures or recording other than myself. You want to maybe talk about being respectful on this platform, and really just be smart when we're doing it. But each program should consider potential risks and develop policies to address them. And then we have a electronic online safety PDF that was provided or published by Rotary International, and that's on their website as well. The host should be the one background checked. So we should have a host, whoever is leading the Zoom meeting with you, they should be background checked. And they should, again, record the session. I also have a media release form. We had a few clubs that requested them. I found one on the Rotary website. I had to dig really deep in there to find it, but we do have one. Now, most media release, when you're dealing with youth, already had parents in schools, like let's say we're doing Interact event. The schools already had done a media release, or more than likely have done a media release at the beginning of the year. So in this case, you would not need a media release form. But if you think that there was no media release form signed, it might be advantageous for you to go and have that taken care of. All right. Pictures can be taken also. You know, all the pictures that I've showed you throughout these slides, I've all pulled from either social media or from websites that we have published. So we want to make sure that we're conscious on, you know, what we're publishing and who's publishing what, because we might have images on there that were not authorized to be released, and we want to be mindful of everyone's privacy when it comes to that. Reporting a concern. So how do I report a youth protection concern? Now, we heard in the video earlier, there's a website in the a link within the Rotary.org website that you can go ahead and report online. This right here is exactly what Rotary International, what they require us to do. But I would like, as a best practice for our district, to still report to the district first. That way we can go ahead and deploy local support immediately. But we need to ensure that the youth is in a safe environment when there is an issue. In case of emergency, contact local law enforcement immediately, or local authorities. Report your concern to Rotary International using the button below within 72 hours. So I have within this website, I did a screenshot. It shows you can report online, you can call or email. Like I said earlier, we want to make sure that we deploy our resources right away. So giving myself a call or your district leadership, your club leadership a call, that way they disseminate the information to us right away. We can go ahead and ensure that issues are addressed.
Hey, Peter, Ed
Naomi.
Hara is asking if they participate with the school, are they to follow the DOE protocols first? And I guess that relates to RYLA too. If they're at a YMCA or a Salvation Army camp, do they follow the protocols of the host first?
You
For
follow
youth
the
protection?
well, typically the best practice is to follow the more stringent out of the two. In this case, this is reporting. So reporting has to be done in conjunction. So we'll go ahead and follow the host rules first because it is within their parameters. But then also we need to be able to, or we should be required to report that to our clubs and to our district leadership immediately. Okay. Training. So besides valuable training sessions such as this, there are many resources that Rotary International provides, such as in learn.rotary.org. There's a lot of great training on just Rotary operations. But what I really like is great training such as protecting youth program participants. So this training actually clicks on and off. I clicked on it a couple of days ago and it came back on. It was down for a little bit, but this course right here, this training doesn't take very long, but it talks about importance of youth protection, protecting youth program participants. And then you can also download the Rotary Youth Protection Guide and the Rotary Youth Protection Incident Report on there. But I recommend going on Rotary's learning platform and participating in this webinar, at least. Also, I provide myself to any club that wants specific training on youth protection. I'm here for you. Please utilize me as a resource. I like to visit clubs. If in that case, I didn't do any last year, we did everything virtually, but let me know and we can go ahead and schedule that. I'll be very happy to participate in talking to your clubs about youth protection or risk. So some best practices and key takeaways. I know we're at 10:12 right now, but we want to provide an environment for youth to grow and become productive adults. And this is where we talked about mentoring and being there. We're the example for these kids, or for the youth. But we want to recognize and address abuse and harassment. We talked about that earlier. Anything that might be a little different with them physically or even mentally. We never want to be alone with a child. We talked about that earlier, and that's a good best practice. Be aware of local policies, such as policies that the DOE has. Let's employ some of the more stringent policies. If our policies at Rotary is a lot more stringent than those in DOE, let's follow the more stringent policy. But we also want to be very mindful of what the DOE requires. Encourage volunteers. We want to encourage those to volunteer. That's the cornerstone of who we are as Rotarians. But we want to scrutinize those volunteers, going through some sort of vetting process through the clubs. Be an example. I mentioned that earlier, right? No profanity, please. No offensive behavior. No foul language. That's very important. We want to conduct a risk analysis for every activity. Anything that we do, whether or not it's planned, long term. We're doing something in October. We want to plan for that, or something next week that just came up. We've got a volunteer opportunity at the food bank. We always want to do a risk analysis, no matter the timeline. Then ask yourself, is hugging or giving a kiss appropriate? We live in Hawaii. This is part of our culture. It is very common for us to give hugs, give kisses, but is a handshake or bumping knuckles a better choice? We have to ask ourselves that. And then we've got that link, another link for you folks, and I'll go ahead and make sure that you have that link, but it's the Rotary District 5000.org site. We've got some great information on district policies and forms. So anything that you need, I would go to the District 5000 website first before you go into the Rotary.org site. There's a lot of good information, good localized policy within our district in that website, or for our district within that website, I should say. Anyone have any questions?
Peter, there's a question about reporting. If DOE, you report to DOE on an incident, do you need to report to DOE and Rotary? That's from Alfonso.
Hi, Alfonso. Absolutely. So DOE will require whenever there's an incident to report, and you're doing that in conjunction with the host. So whether or not it's a teacher or counselor. But with that said, we also have our duty to report here at Rotary too. So let your club leadership know, and they will bubble that up to the district leadership. Now, if it's something as something crisis related, absolutely make sure that we are reporting right away.
Ryan asked if a DOE background check to be a coach for a teacher, does that count, or do you need to still do it for Rotary? And then Allie responded, no, you still need to do the Rotary background check. Thanks, Allie.
Thanks, Allie. You made that very easy for me. We're all a team here, so yeah, we all help each other out. But absolutely, we still have to go through our own background check, and the reason for that is it's standardized. There's we want to make sure that we're asking the same questions all across the board. There are different levels of background checks. I myself have government background check, and I still have to go through our Rotary background check to keep standards. So that's a great question.
So I to add on to that question. So if DOE requires that we also get a background check through them, they won't accept ours. It doesn't make any sense for us to have to get 2 background checks to work with the same group of kids. So can we get some sort of exception, or, hey, if you are a coach with the high school, can we use that as part of being able to work with youth? Because it just doesn't make sense to me why we would have to do for the same purpose.
Absolutely understand that, Ryan. Unfortunately, our policies state that we have to go through our background check through IntelliCorp. If the DOE or the school does not accept that, they have their own set of standards that they require. Unfortunately, you might have to just do 2. I know it doesn't sound, I mean, it may not make sense, but that's our requirement, and that's theirs. All right.
Yeah, I need to add a little bit of the sister club kind of exchanges that we have, because we haven't been really following the short-term youth exchange procedures. Okay, so does anybody have students, kids coming over from your sister club and they stay a couple days with your club members visiting? Anybody?
Yeah, once in a while our club does forage, about every 5 years, 4 years.
Okay, so now we need to follow the short-term youth exchange policies, which means doing the background checks. Any host family that the kids are staying overnight with someone, we need to follow those the affidavit on the youth exchange website. So those steps that that Peter showed for youth exchange, we need to follow that, even though it's a informal sister club exchange.
So I'll go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, definitely more information. Naomi, thank you for that. It's something that's very important, especially when we're having sister clubs and youth coming in to stay with us. We want to make sure that we give them assurances that we have gone through and we're compliant with the requirements and standards. So if you folks have any questions on that, and Dick, I appreciate you folks taking in some youth. That's great. I didn't see you. I don't think you're doing anything this year. I didn't see you on the list this year. But with anyone else, please, by all means, ask the question. Know that there's a little bit more stringency when it comes to vetting through the homes and the volunteers, but utilize myself, your leadership, district leadership for as a resource. Any questions on that? Perfect. So I just wanted to thank you all for your time and commitment with Rotary, and it shows by you folks being here today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. My number is there, and I have my email address on there. For background checks, Mill, again, you want to send the background check information to Natasha Claren, and that's her email address right there. And with that said, I'm going to stop sharing screen.
There's another question in the chat.
Brian, I have a question.
Yes. Hi, Lynn.
I'm sorry, Peter. Ryan mentioned that there's some new regulations, so can you highlight what those are?
Right now, I have to talk with Ryan because I am not sure what the new regulations are. I went on and I took a look. I'm not aware of anything new between last year and this year. But Lynn, I'll go ahead and highlight that as soon as I can. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
That could be true on the short-term sister club exchanges, because that's new.
Oh, okay. So the sister club exchanges and something that's always been there, it's the crisis management plan. That's something. Those two things are new. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll double check though, but those are two new things that we wanted to focus on as well.
And Wolf had his hand up.
Hi, Wolf.
Yes. From an insurance point of view, obviously we are covered by the liability insurance of Rotary. And if that is always involved, as far as insurance is concerned, they always give some guidelines as well in case there is an incident, in case we are attacked. Do they give I'm an insurer, have an insurance background. I know what to do, but are there any guidelines for anybody that is being attacked by somebody for whatever it may be in conjunction with youth? Are there any guidelines from the insurance point of view?
Well, we do have a POC, Rich Proctor. He's our insurance guy. He's got a lot of great information. Del Green, he's our attorney. I'm just giving you people rather than books and paper. But when we utilize our policy manual, there may be something in there regarding insurance and liability. But when we're talking specifics, specific actions or specific incidents, we want to focus our request over to the subject matter experts, and Rich has been doing a great job throughout the years with that, and also Del. So there is something in place.
Okay, no, I'm just saying there's anytime there's liability involved, there's a certain procedure to go through as a person being attacked, and insurance companies normally give you some directions as to what to do. Or not to do, for that matter.
I think for youth protection right now, if when you do have an incident, when there is a crisis, the best thing to do is get a lot of information, at least the 5 W's, know who to report to, and those things should be within our crisis management plan. So that is really the guidance that I can give you right now. But as far as any type of checklist from the insurance company, I'm personally not aware of that, but I can definitely come back and find out for you on that, Wolf.
Oh, you don't have to do it for me. I know what I have to do. I've been doing it for 40 years. So I'm just wondering if anybody else is aware of certain guidelines and requirements in case they are attacked. So.
Thanks, Wolf.
Thanks, Peter.
No, absolutely. Anyone else? All right. Well, that's all I have, everyone. I know this session has been recorded. We will go ahead and email everyone the necessary links and the forms, and we'll go from there. I appreciate everybody spending your Saturday here. I promise you folks I'll get you out in time, and I did. So that's one good thing that I did today, besides share with you some of this good information. So again, I'm here for you all. Anytime you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out when it comes to youth protection. It's what I love doing. The best thing I can do is, if I don't have the answer or questions, I love digging in and researching and getting back. So If anyone doesn't have anything, I will bring it back to Naomi. Naomi already posted it on the webpage, I see.
Yeah. And
Oh,
so,
it will be posted. Mhm.
yep. But maybe we should send everybody, even those who are not here, the certification form and remind them that the form needs to be signed by the current club president and the youth service chair, right? And sent to you.
Absolutely. Everyone's going to get an email from me. So look out for that. Hopefully I'm not in anyone's spam folder. So everyone, I don't have anything else. Naomi, if you want to take over, I'm good.
No, let's ask Mark if he has some closing remarks.
Mark, thank you.
All right, thank you, folks. That's a lot of information. I appreciate Peter sharing all the resources that are available on our district website. So you could always look at the youth services page there to get more information. And I know Peter has made himself available to answer questions over time. So thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Have a good Saturday and a weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Aloha.
Mark. Aloha,
Aloha.
everyone.
Aloha.
Mahalo. Have a great day. Aloha.
Hey, Kent. How you doing? Try hit your space bar, then you unmute. Hold your space bar down. Oh yeah, see, you're unmuted.
Yeah.
How are
Nice
you?
to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Everything okay?
So far, yeah. Doing
Oh,
good.
so you do the Kiki Vision too?
Yeah,
You're a dentist, right?
yeah.
Maybe you
Oh,
do,
retired.
do the dental check too at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Good. You have a lot of people from Conomalca, so that was really good of your club to come.
Right. Well, we want to be on top of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.